Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, we're going to talk UFC 324 and the UFC's debut on Paramount Plus, plus Zuffa Boxing. They also debuted. I was there, so was Goes. And we'll finish up with a preview of UFC 325. Volk is back. Hello, everyone. Gorgeous George here on the con. And look at this distinguished panel we have for you today. Goes from MMA Junkie Radio. He's here in Las Vegas. Danny Segura is out in the 305 in Miami, joining us from the southeast where it's not covered in snow. So we're a three-man panel, but we're probably going to have a special guest co-host, although with the way the weather is all over the country, I don't want to give it away just yet, but we'll see. All right, guys, so listen. Let's get into it, man. We waited 6 weeks, Danny Segura. 1 to 10, real quick, let's just do that. How did you rate the UFC's debut on Paramount Plus? And then we'll get into the fights.
I think it was pretty solid. I wouldn't say it was perfect. I wouldn't say they blew it out of the water, but it was pretty good. There were some hiccups here and there, but that's often expected with big changes, right? So I would give it a solid 9, I think. 8.9 if you want to get a little bit specific.
That's kind of blowing it out of the water, right? Or no?
I mean, a 10 would be... I thought it was good. There were certainly some hiccups there, though.
Fair. Goes?
I am going to go with an 8 because this is actually a difficult question for me to answer because I'm one of the people that had issues, and they were bad issues. But when I go back and see the product... I like some of the things they did, and I know we'll get into that. So I think 8 is probably a good score.
Yeah, that's true. We have to separate the fights and the overall experience, right? Because we weren't in the arena. Our producer, Ken Hathaway, he was there, but we weren't. We were watching from home, and we definitely had some hiccups. So, Goes, I think you're right, man. I might have to sit with you in that 8 region. Great main event, though. That kind of pulled the card up. I think most of us might have been in the 6 to 7 range prior to getting to the main event. And, a little sloppy, but some slobber knocker to it, some strategy to it. And then there was also some poor exhibition of tactics of MMA as well. So back to you, Danny Segura. Your thoughts on Justin Gaethje defeating Paddy Pimblett and how that fight went?
Was not surprised. If you guys listened to MMA Junkie's preview show with Farah and myself, I said that this was a big possibility, and I was very torn between picking Gaethje and Pimblett. Ultimately, I went with Pimblett on my staff picks for MMA Junkie. But, I don't know. I feel like sometimes I'm influenced by the odds, by some of our fellow analysts as well. I always thought Gaethje had a solid chance in doing what he did. What I was surprised with, because I thought Gaethje could knock out Paddy, was Paddy's toughness. I mean, I knew he was tough, but, very few people were able to take punches and punishment from Gaethje for a long period of time. So that impressed me. I think I was very surprised by the fact that it went to a decision. But the fact that Justin Gaethje is now interim lightweight champion and spoiled the plans, at least for now, of Elias Hopuria versus Paddy Pimblett grudge match. Not surprised at all, man. Gaethje still got some life in some life in this game, and he still got that dog in him. So,
Danny, was Justin Gaethje great when he needed to be? I mean, he became a world champ, right? Interim, I know, but still. Or was Paddy poor, or was there a combination of both?
I think it's a combination of both. And the only reason why I'd say that is because, sure, Paddy showed incredible heart. His striking, at least offensively, wasn't too bad, and he had some moments where, it seemed he stunned Gaethje here and there. But where was the wrestling? Where was the jiu-jitsu? I know there was one shot. There might have been more. I don't know. But I remember just one clear shot, and that was because he was hurt. So it was a reactionary thing, not really part of the game plan. And if you go back and look at the audio in between rounds, and I know there was a lot of criticism about that because there was so many ads and stuff like that, but there was some instances where the audio was picked up in Paddy Pimblett's corner, and they were begging him to take the fight to the ground, yet he would just go out there and strike. So part of me just wonders if maybe there was some sort of knee injury or something that wouldn't really allow him to wrestle. But yeah, that was kind of puzzling. And on that end, I think it facilitated things for Justin Gaethje. But at the end of the day, Gaethje was the one throwing punches, was the one moving forward, was the one connecting. He had some mean body shots. I think Gaethje's still a very, very good fighter. Maybe not prime, but still part of the elite at lightweight.
Mm-hmm. I'm glad you brought that up because I was also wondering why were there no adjustments. But if you're saying the corner was telling him to take him down, then that's kind of on him. Goes, you and I host a watch along, so we don't have the volume as high, right? Because otherwise it'll rebroadcast. Can't do that. So sometimes we miss out on these things. But your thoughts on the fight? And again, same question: was Gaethje just great, or was Paddy poor, or a combination of the both?
Yeah, I think it was a combination of both. The fight was one-sided, but it was still interesting for me because Paddy did just enough to kind of keep us interested. Every once in a while, he would hit Justin with something, and he kind of had this body language, like maybe he wasn't in trouble, but he felt it, right? And I think hats off to Justin Gaethje. Before the fight, I said if he stuck to a game plan, I feel like he would win the fight. But that's the problem is you never really get that out of Justin Gaethje. He's too unpredictable, right? But he found early success and he was able to just kind of rinse and repeat. And the fact that Paddy wasn't making very many adjustments, the fact that he was using his face to block everything, like the defense is something that he absolutely has to get in the gym and really touch up on. That was not good. But honestly, I think the real winner that night was probably Ilia Topuria. I think he was sitting back thinking neither one of these guys probably has something for me. I think Justin, he may not have it still. He's got something, but I could see him getting past a guy like Paddy with something like that. But Ilia, I don't know. I think Arman Tsarukyan was probably drooling in the front row. Overall, it was an entertaining fight, but like you said, it got sloppy at times, and we'll have to see what they do moving forward. But if they did not have that type of fight, it might have been a rough night, guys.
Yeah, Paddy's boxing defense was atrocious. I mean, his hands. I know they're always low, but you have to change things up as you mature, right? And your opponent. What do we accuse Justin Gaethje of? We kind of accuse Justin Gaethje of sometimes having poor fighter IQ as well. Why not use some of that wrestling? You know, you came from that world. You were an All-American. I know you're older and you haven't done those reps, but still, you present a threat, you know, that others just don't have. Mm-hmm. And so those hands were so low, and they just wouldn't come up. At some point they wouldn't come up. And he took a lot of damage. Yes, I know Scousers don't get knocked out. He proved it on Saturday yet again, but still, you know, it was free target practice for Justin Gaethje. And that's actually how you add up scoring, you know, the proverbial scoring. It's not like the judge is flicking a button or, you know, giving you a point or anything like that. He's computing in his head. But if he sees one guy constantly touching the other guy, marking him up, come on, man. You know, congrats to Justin Gaethje. I picked Paddy Pimblett because I got tired of losing going against Paddy Pimblett, and it stung me. Also, Justin Gaethje's an aging superstar. I tend to go with the aging superstars, and that usually stings me too. And now I got to go back to the drawing board. That old damn cold coffee keeps winning the staff picks. I got to take one of us has to take him down.
Yeah.
This year. Have we celebrated the guy? Did we give him his flowers? At all? So. He won it for the 4th time. That's amazing. I don't think anyone on our staff's repeated, by the way. No. Look, on the chat, I'm getting 8 out of 10 from Joseph Boza. AZ Ray Videos says 8.5 out of 10. Ads ruined the viewing experience, according to JT. Big shout out to the Brian John. The ads, they did kind of suck. And Dana White said, hey, look, they got to make some money too. You know, I guess it is a balancing act, right? We didn't pay $80. Most of us already have Paramount Plus. But I suppose if you didn't and you ponied up, maybe you are waiting for that going back a few years, the real pay-per-view experience, right? Like on In Demand and DirecTV, and you ain't going to get that.
Yeah.
In the streaming world.
But, you know, in a way, I guess, they came out and they said, look, what you saw this first night is not what you're going to see going forward. So we have to kind of maybe give that a pass. And they have to find some kind of medium, though, because, look, the ads didn't kill me, but they were there, they were annoying, and some of the things that we love as MMA fans, we missed out on because of that. That's definitely something, like, I get it, we're paying less, but find some kind of medium there, because if that's just going to be the norm, it's going to be really hard to watch.
Yeah. Danny, you were doing play-by-play. You probably didn't look up as much as the rest of us, but was there anything you wanted to add to the Paramount Plus part of the debut before we get back to fights?
Yeah, the ads for me weren't that annoying because, granted, I'm working. I'm not really, just watching the fights for fun, right? So while they have the ads and stuff, I'm usually typing, doing a bunch of things for the site, for the play-by-play. So I'm not really, I'm not watching just like a regular fan or consumer. So the experience is a little bit for me, but I can understand why it'd be annoying. If I had my buddies over and we're gonna watch the fights, and we're gonna get hyped up with some of these walkouts, this and that, and instead I have to sit there and watch some ads. Yeah, it's definitely a buzzkill. But like Dana White said, you are paying what, $8.99 a month, right? Would you rather trade and get less ads and go back to $90 a month? Which more or less that's how many pay-per-views are per month. So yeah, I don't know what the happy medium will be, because less ads means less revenue, so more subscription charge, right? Like, I don't know exactly what's gonna go down, but yeah, certainly something that comes with the territory. Again, for me, it wasn't horrible, but everything else I liked. I thought the UFC kept the very UFC DNA that people enjoyed and recognized. It didn't feel like a foreign product or anything like that, but it did feel a little fresh. It did feel like it got a new coat of paint and they changed things up a little bit. So that was nice. And also shouts out to Kate Scott. I thought she did an amazing job as a host. I usually watch her as a Champions League host. So it was kind of a trip watching her cover some UFC fights. And I wondered how much she knew about UFC and MMA. And she turns out to be pretty knowledgeable, and she did a good job. So overall, I think it was a good debut for UFC and Paramount.
I want to correct Danny. I think some of us see her as a Champions League host, right? But we're gonna get there.
Yeah, what's Champions League, Danny? We don't know.
We're gonna get there.
Yeah. I don't. Who does Europa League? I don't even know. So, but anyways, guys, Champions League. You guys should check it out. Elite level 4.
Oh, we're gonna next year. You trust me?
Let's see.
All right, goes real quick. What was it you sent me last night regarding Paramount and ads? It's staying right in the UFC. So if you get premium, that applies more to the TV shows.
Yeah, the TV shows don't have ads, but the UFC is always going to have them to a certain extent. They'll still be a part of it.
Yeah. All right, and here's another thing, folks. If you get premium, you get 4 streams. If you get the standard, which is the $8.99, and I think the premium is $12.99, you get 2 streams. Now, as it is, we're fighting to get just 1 stream, so there was some hiccups along the way. But just know, standard, 2 streams, premium, 4 streams. So that's when you can call your pops and say, "Dad, tune in, man. It's free." And all you gotta do is go on Paramount Plus. There you go. He's got a stream, and you get your stream at home and whatever. But look, yeah, Dana did say they're gonna fix a bunch of stuff. It was their debut, and according to him, the numbers are good. But back to face punching. What's that goes?
Sorry to cut you off, but I don't know if you guys remember, like when Netflix did their first boxing event, they had really bad problems. Remember, like you were getting locked out, but they turned it around by the second one. So hopefully Paramount Plus can do something like that, right?
I hope so. Yeah. All right. So I think we've talked through the fight, Gaethje versus Pimblett, and now we have an undisputed champion in Ilia Topuria, who I believe last week said 4 to 6. No, wait, what do you say? April to June, he'll be ready. He's undisputed. Gaethje's clearly the interim. Arman Tsarukyan was there. He wasn't let into the octagon or nothing like that. But he was asked, and I think it was Mike Bond, is Arman Tsarukyan featured on any card that's been made in March or April? Because Dana says those are made, and we're focusing on the White House next week. And Dana said he thought about it. He looked around. He goes, I think so. So it sounds to me like Arman Tsarukyan could possibly have to take another fight and look for Gaethje versus Topuria. Where? I don't know. But again, he was so unsure. You don't take that one to the bank. But guys, is that maybe the correct call that UC goes? They should just book Sarukian against someone else. I guess get him properly out of the doghouse and do what's the tradition of unifying interim and undisputed.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, it'd be a laughing stock if they didn't do that. Poor Armin's the one that really just, that doghouse has been pretty nasty. But if I'm him, he's so good. He's showing so many improvements. I would just take another fight. It's better than sitting around. You really have no idea what the UFC is going to do. It's just unstable right now. So yeah, I think I would.
But the right call, Danny?
I wouldn't take any other fight if a title shot is promised. Obviously, if he sits down with the UFC and they're like, okay, look, you guys skipped me over this time around, but am I guaranteed the next title shot? If they can assure that, I think he should just sit out. He doesn't need the money. Definitely doesn't. The guy is quite wealthy, and that's really the only incentive why you would want to keep busy in the UFC. Outside, he's doing grappling tournaments, so he stays sharp and stuff like that in terms of competition and staying in shape and all that. So I'd actually advise him to sit out should the UFC guarantee him the next crack at the winner of Gaethje and Topuria. If that's not the case, then yeah, you got to do something to impress so you're not forgotten and fight again. But I think it all comes down to how the UFC wants to handle this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, we'll see, how this plays out. I sound like Dana White now, but I think that's the direction they're headed. Let's talk about the co-main event. Sean O'Malley, the former bantamweight champion, he fought Song Yadong, and he defeated him. I wouldn't say highly controversial, but a little controversial. Some people thought Song Yadong did enough to win the fight. Sean O'Malley has no doubt that he did. In fact, as we're looking at his face, or we were looking at his face there, he says, I didn't even get marked up. So he just didn't think there was any way that he could have possibly lost. Danny, how'd you score it? And what did you think of Sean O'Malley? Did he outperform Umar Nurmagomedov, another standout bantamweight who wants another crack at the title?
So I didn't think either fight was very exciting, but I thought Umar's and Figueiredo's was quite boring. So yes, I guess you could say he did surpass him in terms of that, and he had a post-fight interview and all that and had a nice call out, and the crowd seemed to react positively to that. So I guess so, but I wasn't too impressed with what I saw from O'Malley. It was a fight with very little action. He did look good in the end, though, in round 3, which was the most definitive round, the round he took. And in terms of me scoring the fight, I had it 1-1 going into the third. I forget exactly what round I gave to Song Yadong. I think I gave the first to O'Malley. In the second, I gave to Song Yadong, but I'd have to go back and look at my exact score. But yeah, I think overall the right person won here. I think the face test is a good sometimes determiner, a good sometimes test to see who won the fight. And again, Yadong was bleeding from his mouth and nose, and O'Malley was fairly clean. So. Yeah, the right guy won. I do think that he puts himself in a good spot. He didn't exactly wow the entire crowd, which is why I think maybe Merab has a shot at getting the next shot. But we'll see. It's definitely between those two. I think Umar for now is out of the picture following that fight with Figueiredo.
Mm-hmm. It was a unanimous decision, and all these are veteran refs. Eric Colon, Chris Lee, Ron McCarthy. They all called it the same. Rounds 1 and 3 for O'Malley. Round 2 for Yadong. But when I look at MMA decisions, it was pretty even. Slight edge to O'Malley. About 20 scores came in, so it looks like maybe 11-9 in favor of O'Malley. But there was some support for Song. How about you, Goes? What happens here? Let me unpack it real quick. Sean's a former champ who has a win over the current champ, Petr Yan. Merab Dvalishvili beat Sean O'Malley twice. Kind of got him out of the way and defended 3 times. One of them was O'Malley. So a lot of people are saying, well, could he get an immediate rematch because he was a company man, he was active, and he had some title defenses. And then, of course, he got Umar Nurmagomedov, who is pretty much a spotless record with the exception of the loss to Merab Dvalishvili, which was really, really a good fight. So he actually performed when he needed to, he just came up a little bit short. How would you attack all this? There's some options here for everyone.
Yeah, and I think some players have different routes, right? Sean O'Malley before the fight wasn't really speaking up too much on this. In fact, on our show, he kind of said I would understand if they gave it to Umar. His tune changed a little bit once he got that W. I don't know, man. Look, the UFC loves that guy. The opportunity of putting him there, I think, would be just too much for the UFC to pass up on. I could definitely see that. Umar probably could have done better in his fight, maybe put a stamp on that performance, but at the same time, does that ever really guarantee you anything anymore? I mean, Lerone Murphy did that, right? He put a stamp on his fight, got him nothing. So I don't know. I think destination will probably play a lot in this. Sean O'Malley on the White House lawn sounds pretty interesting, right? If this were overseas, maybe Umar's the guy. And then it seems like the UFC also is very fond of Merab Dvalishvili. And if he really wants to come out and say, this is my shot, I want to do it right now, they might give it to him. I would advise him not to do that. I don't think that's a good idea. I think Peter Yan really just went up another level in this past fight. And I think you got to figure that out. And I don't think that's something you figure out from camp to camp. It's going to take some time. So yeah, definitely a lot of different results, but what does my heart tell me? The UFC really loves Sean O'Malley. I think they'll figure out a way to do this.
Wasn't it Merab that recently said he doesn't think the UFC wants Russians on the White House card? Was he the one that slipped that in?
I don't know.
He said that, right? But again, how much stock do you put in that, right?
But it's not the craziest thing we've ever heard, because obviously these countries have not always gotten along. So it's not hard to believe, but yeah, you're right. Spiders, they chirp all the time, and half the time it is BS. So Danny, what would we do here? Let me point something out real quick that I pointed out on last night's Junkie Radio with Goes. Sean O'Malley needs to be careful. He might be playing coy and know that he already has a shot, but if he allows Merab, go ahead, Merab. If he puts up nothing and doesn't build a campaign, and Merab fights Peter Yan, all right, for one, if it's a great fight, they're going to do a trilogy at some point, because now they would be 1-1. Peter Yan wins. If Merab wins.
No,
they're already 1-1. They're already 1-1. But what I meant was, if Merab wins, now you got an incumbent, Merab, who's beat you twice. Would the UFC shove a third O'Malley Merab fight at us, with Umar lingering and some of the other bantamweights making their way up? Go ahead, Danny.
No, I think that's accurate, right? If Dvalishvili were to win, then that puts Sean O'Malley in a very tough spot, and then it's going to be a very tough sell for the UFC. Sorry, which is why I think they're just going to go straight with Sean O'Malley. One, it's the bigger fight, I think, and two, you save yourself from maybe putting the division in a weird spot. So I think O'Malley's going to get the next title shot. I do think it should be Merab, though. I think he's done enough to deserve an immediate trilogy bout with Peter Yan, but we know how the UFC runs, right? We know the type of decisions they make, which is often to benefit the monetary side of things, and I think on that aspect, Sean O'Malley is your guy.
Mm-hmm. I want to welcome to the show former Strikeforce light heavyweight champion, former Bellator light heavyweight tournament champion, and former Ryzen openweight Grand Prix champion, King Mo Lawal, joining us down in South Florida. What's up, King Mo?
I'm brown sugar now.
Brown sugar, that's right.
Yeah, I'm brown sugar. I'm on that BS. Thank you, Goes. What's up, y'all? What's going on?
Not much, man. Hey, listen, thanks for jumping on with us. Give us your quick thoughts on Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. A lot of people said it was a great fight. I thought there was some sloppiness to it, so I thought it was a little bit more in between. What was your opinion?
Okay, so it was a good fight because it was entertaining. The tactics were lacking. In my opinion, I thought Paddy Pimblett would do a little better because he's a lot quicker. His takedowns aren't the greatest, but I figured he'd be able to utilize some type of trips or something to get into the inside and utilize some dirty boxing to execute some judo throws. But that never happened. He was content with just entertaining the crowd, because I feel like now MMA in America has become more of a show and less of the best fighting the best. It's all about entertaining and not really about winning now.
Mhm.
Because if you utilize wrestling, or you fight with a good game plan, people will call you boring. Now it's a TV show. They want to entertain. They want the crowd to go crazy, and
Right.
MMA took a step back a little bit.
But look at Paddy. It worked for Paddy against Chandler. He took him down, finished him. It was called an exciting, fight at that moment, at that particular time. He didn't really even attempt it against Gaethje.
But here's the thing, though. Chandler has a band. I love Michael. I don't know how. What's all my bad? But I love Chandler. But since he left Bellator, he's abandoned all sorts of game plan. His game plan is to go out there and entertain. So it wasn't that hard for Paddy Pimblett to go out there and utilize some tactics to win.
Mm-hmm. All right, your thoughts, because we're catching up a little bit here on Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. Did you think O'Malley won?
Yo, it was close. It was close, man. Look, that fight was close. I thought that fight with Rose, look, I thought Rose might have won. The fights were close, I don't know, man. Like the fight was a close fight.
Mm-hmm.
It was a close fight.
They're going to discuss what's next.
What's y'all's opinion? What's y'all's opinion on that?
I thought Song had won on fight night.
Yeah.
How about you, Danny? What did you say? You said O'Malley, right?
O'Malley, yeah, I scored it.
Yeah, Ghost said, I think Ghost felt the same as me. Neither one of us was offended with it going either way, but my first instinct was that Song had won.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Go ahead.
What would you do next if you had to decide? The champion, Petr Yan, has options. He's 1-1 against Merab Dvalishvili. He's 0-1 against O'Malley, so he might want to avenge that. And that's less wrestling. He'll just throw hands with O'Malley. Petr Yan loves to throw hands. And then, of course, there's Umar Nurmagomedov, who's only had one loss to Merab Dvalishvili. But other than that, he's been pretty spotless himself.
Fight Umar. And the thing is, if I were running the things, I have him fight Umar, and I have Sean O'Malley look stellar in his next fight, so it'd be a better sell.
Mm-hmm.
Because this last fight was close,
on Russia crime, huh?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, why not? You know what I'm saying? Why not? Because Petr Yan has shown he could defend some takedowns. He's shown the growth. He's shown patience. He's shown some savviness with his tactics. So let him fight Umar, and then the winner fights Sean O'Malley and whoever he fights next.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're pivoting to the next fight here. Let's do this quick, guys. Waldo Cortez Acosta defeated Derek Lewis. We didn't see too much. First round was kind of slow, to be honest, and then Derek looked like he slipped. I thought he maybe hurt his knee or something. Covered up, and then Waldo came in and finished him pretty quickly. Says he wants Curtis Blades next. I don't know why he would want that. But Mo, we'll go with you first. What did you think of this heavyweight tilt?
Waldo's cleaner boxing, better tactics, a little fresher. Now, it's like this. Waldo wants Curtis Blades next. I think he should fight when Rizvan Kunaev defeats Jailton Almeida, let him fight Rizvan, the Dagestani Dragon. Let him fight Rizvan.
See, I was thinking, why not avenged against Sergey Pavlovich? Why would you want to go against the wrestler who can really just suffocate you, and maybe go up against the guy that beat you, who will provide you an exciting fight, avenge a loss?
But Rizvan's not just a wrestler; he's a Sanda guy. That's my guy. He got hands too. He's the guy that fought Curtis Blades in Azerbaijan, so he has hands. He can wrestle. He's an entertaining fighter. He can kick. He can do it all. And I think that the crowd would be entertained by a fight with him and Waldo.
Mm-hmm. All right, Danny, your thoughts? What would you think of Waldo's performance, his call-outs, his future?
I thought he looked great. He might have the best jab at heavyweight. He's very good. He's got good head movement, all around, just great movement in general, which is why Derek Lewis had a lot of trouble. He just couldn't find him, right? And meanwhile, he was just getting jabbed through the entire fight. I don't hate the Curtis Blades call out. Obviously, a former title challenger, a guy that's a top contender and a known name at heavyweight. So I don't hate it, but I do think he kind of messed up a little bit by not taking a shot at Aspinall or at Gane and asking for a title fight. I think if Aspinall is going to be out for a little bit, which it seems he's had eye surgery, and I don't know, that sounds pretty serious. Why not make an interim title fight between him and Gane, right? Like between Waldo and Gane. So I think he could have maybe pushed that agenda a little further to get himself a championship fight. But hey, I also respect a guy trying to take a tough fight in Curtis Blades, and especially in Mexico City with all the elevation. So
is that what he said? He wants to do it in Mexico as well?
Yeah, Mexico City next month, by the way, February 28th. So props to Waldo for being active and wanting the toughest fights. You can always respect that.
True that.
Goes, your thoughts on the heavyweights?
If people are wondering where's Waldo, I'll tell you. He's in the good graces of the UFC. He's cashing checks at the bank, and he will be on the White House lawn. I think him and Derek Lewis sort of switched positions a little bit in the sense of everybody who loves that big heavyweight that goes out there and throws hands. That was Derek Lewis for a long time, but he's had these hiccup types of fights where it's just not there. And this was one of those. And Waldo, I think, is going to be that guy going forward, a guy that you can trust that's going to put on a good fight. I think the UFC's happy. I think Waldo's happy, and I think he will fight on that White House card.
And guys, regarding Lewis, is he not? We're not showing him the door, but are his best days done? The high-profile fights, Mo. What do you think?
You know what? You never know, because all he is one knockout away. Remember Andre Arlovski? He was doing bad and went and had his own run, streaking wins. All you need is one knockout at heavyweight, one good win, and you're back in the mix.
Goes?
I think the better days are probably done in regards of can he ever fight for a belt again? But look, I mean, he's a guy that you see pop up on a card you want to watch, right? Like, I think fans love him. I think people will still tune in. I think there's still a place for him. I know he's got plenty of fights left on his contract, so I think he'll be around.
All right. Danny, everything good with you? Just checking.
Yeah. Sorry,
right.
my dog was freaking out because there was somebody at the door, so I had to let him out, or else he was gonna just make a wild scene here.
Okay, I was gonna say we can't see your zipper if it was down, so don't worry about that. All right, let's move on to Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. Again, I thought Rose won, to tell you the truth. I wasn't that excited by the fight, and I thought most of that hinged on Natalia Silva. She didn't seem like to commit to strikes. She's got that quick hip movement. She's moving her feet. She does throw wild kicks, nice kicks, some punches, but it seems like she goes 75% and is willing to pull them back if she's not going to hit the target, or maybe if she thinks she's going to get it. It's bizarre to me. I don't know. I know that it's working, because I don't think she's lost since she's been in the UFC. I think she's 8-0 in the UFC, and she just beat a former champ, for crying out loud. And I know the UFC's behind her, but that wasn't that didn't captivate me, and I don't think it's worthy of a title shot. But let's see what the experts think goes. Your thoughts on that fight, and did you agree with the decision?
I actually thought Rose had done enough to win the fight. She's tricky, she's hard to get a hold of sometimes. For fighters, and Natalia Silva just kind of reminded me of earlier in the night where you saw Sean O'Malley. His last round was his best round. You thought, had he fought that the whole fight, no problem. I feel like if Natalia Silva would have found her range a lot sooner, she could have had a better performance, but it was just okay. A lot of these people that were in that position where they're trying to let you know they could possibly be next, they kind of fumbled the ball, and it's a good win on paper. But when you go back and watch it, I don't know that it screams title shot.
What are your thoughts, Danny?
Yeah, the fight itself wasn't super exciting. I did think she won the fight. I think it was oddly very similar to the fight with Yadong and O'Malley, where you have two very close rounds and then a third that's dominant. And both of the people that won the third round, Sean O'Malley and Natalia Silva, ended up winning the fight. So very similar in nature. But yeah, this fight wasn't the most exciting, but I do believe she should get the next shot. She took this fight on short notice. That's a favor for the UFC, and also 8-0 in the UFC, man. I don't care if all your fights are boring, but if you're 8-0 in a division, you should get a title shot, right? Just out of merit alone, right? So yeah, I think she should get the next shot, but yes, it wasn't the most exciting performance.
Mo, what did you think, man? Do you think Natalia Silva did enough to surpass Aaron Blanchfield, for example, who is 7-1, but her loss was to Manon Fiorot, who's the number 2 flyweight in the world. Like I say, I like it when a title challenger who's becoming a contender puts a stamp, right? Has a statement win, and I didn't feel like that's what that was.
I thought Rose won the fight 2-1, but it was close. With that being said, she's undefeated. She might have earned the right to fight for the title off of that alone.
Yeah.
I
It's
have a
true.
question for King Mo. Since you're around fighters and you train fighters all the time, how aware are fighters of, like, obviously not the goal is to win, but how aware are fighters of, like, man, I gotta put on a show, like I gotta not just win, especially UFC ones, because that's where we see sometimes the UFC skipping over contenders that are more exciting over people that are on good win streaks and maybe sporting wise deserve it more. But how aware are fighters about that sort of factor that is not just about winning, right?
The Americans understand that more. The foreigners don't really understand it as much because if you're an amateur coming from Russia or China, they just care if you win.
Right.
You can win all your fights. Let's say you're a wrestler and you win all your wrestling matches 1-0. Hey, you're a winner. Say you're 40-0 with 40 decisions, you're a winner. Where in America, you're boring. You're so boring you couldn't finish a sandwich. They say stuff like that, So it's like the Americans understand that. That's why you see more characters, like that one pro wrestler guy, whoever that one heavyweight dude is a pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Look at
Yeah, he like Chael Sonnen. You see, Americans have the personality. It's like kind of like for instance, like pro wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling. In Japan, when you're a pro wrestler, they go over your technique and everything first. Then you build your character. In America, you build your character, your gimmick, then you build your technique. So it's the same way here in America. Like the Americans understand you have to entertain. The foreigners just say, let's win and let's see what happens.
True.
All right. I like that insight. Let's discuss the last one here on the main card. John Silva against Arnold Allen, another close fight. I was entertained, honestly. Arnold Allen did not look bad after being gone for 18 months. And John Silva, back to the wall a little bit. It's a cutthroat division. He just lost to Diego Lopez. He can't lose 2 in a row. Otherwise, he kind of falls out, right, of those that top tier. Instead, he looked like he took the first round off, and then all of a sudden, it was time to throw down. Danny, your thoughts on that fight?
I liked it, and one, it was a very exciting fight, and two, I think it was exactly what I wanted to see from John Silva. I wanted to see him go the full distance, be a little smarter, control his chaos a little bit more, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw a guy that still kept his DNA but fought a bit smarter, and yeah, got the victory. I mean, a lot of people argue that in his last fight against Diego Lopez, his chaos cost him the fight. Some people think that if he would have been a little bit more careful, he probably would have ended up winning that one. But yeah, overall, I would say 10 out of 10 is exactly what I wanted to see from John Silva. And watch out. Now you got not only just a madman, but a madman that's evolving and that's getting a little bit more responsible, and that can take him pretty far. So I'm still high on this guy. I think he'll eventually fight for a belt.
Brown Sugar, what did you think of that fight?
Man, I'm not going to hold y'all. I was busy watching Khalil Cole versus Jesse Hart, thinking that was going to be a good match because I watched the weigh-ins, and that fight was horrible. So I was busy hoping that match would cook up, and I was stuck watching it. So I didn't get a chance to really watch the Silva Allen fight, man. So y'all have to skip me on that.
All right, goes.
Look, I thought it was a good performance for Jean Silva. I think he showed that you can kind of control the chaos a little bit, and I think that's one thing that he has been lacking. He was able to do it, but you know what? A lot of props to Allen. I thought he looked great, man. I felt like some of the praise would be kind of taken from Silva because of that. But Allen did look really good, so I think it's a good victory, but I would take my time. I don't think he has to rush to get right back up at the top. I think there are still some things that he can do, build some confidence, get another good win, and then kind of throw his name in the mix.
You talking about John Silva?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mo, let's do this real quick. Last year was kind of the year of the spinning elbow. As a coach at American Top Team, you're one of the leading gyms. You've been coaching for a while now. You've won a lot of titles. What do you think is the move to look out for in 2026? Since these spinning attacks were real big last year.
I don't think it's gonna be a move. I think it's gonna be movement. I think because the spinning attacks are they're more effective versus the person that's trying to apply pressure in your face. Aaron Pico was applying pressure, spinning back elbow. What's that dude's name? Magomedov was applying pressure to Pettis, spinning back elbow. So that maneuver is there if you're applying pressure because you get finesse with it. I think now you're gonna see more movement. You're gonna see more angles, more angle creation. I tell my guys to watch Bam Rodriguez and Orlando Canasales for that reason. Chris Bird, because angles, it's easy to be in front of somebody to get the knockout, but it's easier to create an angle and get the knockout and not get hit. So I think you're gonna see more angle creation and more innovation with the tactics.
Got it. All right, Mo. Well, thanks for jumping on with us, man. We really appreciate it. I know your practice just ended. Hopefully we can do this again in the future. We always appreciate you spreading the knowledge.
I appreciate y'all.
All right. Take care, man.
All right.
We'll see you
See ya.
later.
All right.
All right. That's King Mo, former Strike Force light heavyweight champ, also Ryzen openweight Grand Prix champ. And he took down one of those Bellator tournaments as well back in the day. Some people were saying, what's Bellator? All right. What's Strike Force? Danny and Goes, give me a quick other highlight from UFC 234 and then 324, and then we'll put it to bed. Goes.
I thought the Alex Perez Charles Johnson fight, things didn't really go their way before the fight. Alex Perez missed weight, had some highs and lows, but I thought he looked good in the fight. I actually picked Charles Johnson. I was impressed with the way Alex Perez fought, but he's got to dial this in, man.
Danny?
Ty Miller, man. His hands, his jab, his patience. He reminds me of Adrian Yanez when he first arrived to the UFC, where everybody was just kind of, fascinated with his boxing. This guy is very much the same. Obviously, very green. We'll see how he evolves. This is just his first fight in the UFC, but I think he could go pretty far. I'm curious to see how his career unfolds.
Mm-hmm. I'll give a shout out to Atiba Gaethje and Andre Pulev. It looked like Gaethje was just going to starch him. He put him down a few times in the first round, and throughout the fight, I think he put him down 5 or 6 times. But Pulev would not stop coming forward. Gaethje, I think, realized, hey, I can't just empty the tank. So he learned a lot. He got 15 valuable minutes of experience in there. He now knows how far he can push himself. He also knows there's going to be some people out there that can weather storms. And so he's got to be ready for, a second win, a third win, or whatever, and stay composed and calm. But he won. He got his hand raised. Not the usual style. Didn't grab $100,000, which we'll touch on in just a sec. But he got the dub, and that's the important thing. And guys, real quick, we're not done unpacking 324 because attached to it, I think real big was the bonuses. They went up to 100,000, so basically doubling from 50,000. And there's a $25,000 bonus for a finish if you don't get the 100,000. Real quick, guys, chime in on that, Danny.
I'm happy for the fighters. Obviously, it means more money in their pockets, which I'm happy for. This is the way it should have been for a while now, because the bonuses were stuck at 50,000 for a long time, and I do feel like in a lot of those fights, a lot of those fight cards, there were a lot of guys that were deserving of the bonus because they would get really good finishes, and then they would either get skipped over because somebody would either do something more spectacular, or sometimes they wouldn't, and that other person would still get the bonus even though they were less spectacular. So yeah, I like this. This is good, but I also want to tail this with the following, which I said this on Twitter as well. Keep in mind that the UFC signed a 7-year deal with Paramount and CBS for $7.7 billion. So yes, it means more money in their pockets, but that's also because the UFC is making more money. And if you want to do it percentage-wise in terms of how much money is coming into the company versus how much money they're paying out to the talent, it might even be worse than it was before. You know what I'm saying? In terms of fighters getting their fair share just because of that $7.7 billion sum. So someone is going to have to do the math there. I'm not doing it, but
there's some sharp guys in accounting that can get it within a dollar.
And I know John Nash had put something out there, and again, good for the fighters. I'm happy for them, but I don't think they're still getting a fair shake here.
Goes?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Danny. Some people are happy when you give them a cookie, but they don't realize that they deserve a steak, right? I think the increase, the double to 100,000 is, a lot of people argue that should have happened probably 5, 7 years ago, right? So now with the influx of all this money, it feels like you're just making things right. The $25,000 bonus, I think, is what kind of helps a little bit. Man, if I were the UFC though, I wouldn't do the if you get the 100, you don't get the 25. Like, you can afford it, man. Just give them the 25 as well. But I guess it's a start. But I'd want to see base fighter pay go up. I think there's a lot of different things that fighters could argue, an extra cornerman, things like that. The amount of money that they're getting from Paramount is a lot, guys.
It is. It is a ton. Had wanted no less than 100, and I got that. And then the 25 was nice. And Dana clarified. He says, in the past, when you've heard me say, "Oh, I'm going to take care of a certain fighter," that usually meant 5 to 25,000. Those are his words. He said it. So if you ever wondered, does it come close to matching a $50,000 bonus or not? Well, I guess as good as it got was half of that. So it's something. Of course, we're always going to want more. But let me tell you something, man. How does Francis Ngannou not get a bonus for knocking out Alistair Overeem is still beyond me. Every finisher should always get a bonus, and we get that. But like Go said, and I think Danny might have touched on it, there's a lot of gold in that pot. Dig in a little bit more. Maybe this is the first wave of it, and perhaps the fighters will maybe push back a little bit. They don't tend to, but we'll see. Let's get into Zuffa Boxing real quick, guys. Goes and I were there. We'll have to kind of go through this a little quicker there because we spent some time on UFC 324. Goes, you were there. A great Zuffa Boxing's debut.
Live, I would say 7. On TV, probably an 8. I thought there's definitely things they can work on. I thought you made a good point, George. If it were more like a Dana White's Contender Series style, where it's not that long of a card, I think it would be perfect. I think the fighters need a little bit more individuality, right? We're used to seeing that in boxing. That kind of got taken away here. But overall, it's a good first card to build off of.
The uniforms were out. We're not used to that in boxing. Boxing's got 130 years, 150 years, folks. Unlike MMA, which has, I think, what are we at, 33 years? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's what we've known. It's got a deep history of individualism, and I did not see that there. Faster pacing would be nice. I think we had 8 fights. Let's just do 5. We started at 3:15. We ended at 8:15. That's a long time, man, on that seat. My ass was hurting. Danny, did you catch any of it on TV, a replay, a tweet, a highlight, anything? Any thoughts there?
I saw the main event with Callum. I thought it was a fine product, but I wasn't like super blown away. It was at the UFC Apex, or the Meta Apex, I believe it's called now. And given it's got the same production and it's in the same place as the Contender, it kind of gave me that vibe. And usually whenever I tune into boxing is for the big fights, the championship fights, a Canelo, a big heavyweight fight. And there's certain big fight feel that boxing brings to the table that MMA doesn't. There's a certain level of fanciness, of grandeur, or of, I don't know, just magnificency, if that's even a word. But whatever made up words you want to throw out there that kind of just put like greatness, right? This again, it gives me the warehouse vibes. I'm not a fan of the Apex. So I wonder what the UFC is trying to do. Huh?
They just redid it. They got a ticket center. They got a new concession stand. You don't like the Apex?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, a few years ago, I repainted my truck, but it's still shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same thing as 20,000 people in a packed arena, Madison Square Garden, the Wembley Stadium. It's just not the same thing. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was fine, but I'm also not a huge boxing fan. Obviously, I'm an MMA fan first, but I really do wonder where like a true boxing only fan feels. I thought it was fine, but that's about it.
Can the UFC benefit, Danny, from Zuffa Boxing? We got the head honcho on both sides, and a lot of people tend to be fans of Dana White and follow him around. You do see some nice, crisp, straighter punches, digging into the body, taking great shots. rolling with shots and not absorbing them, not getting full impact, parrying, using your hands, different types of defenses. Like, for example, that we didn't see in Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje. So do you think that crossover can help?
I think anytime the UFC starts a new business venture, whether it's UFC, BJJ, now Zuffa Boxing, I think it can always help the new venture because the UFC has such a large built-in social media following and just such a robust already like machine that it's just very easy to push anything out and make sure that people hear about it. But in terms of the other way going around, I don't necessarily think I see the two things very separated from each other. So I think Zuffa Boxing is definitely going to benefit from the UFC for sure, but I don't necessarily think the UFC is going to benefit from Zuffa Boxing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Goes, did you see Alexander Uchic's name being attached to Zuffa Boxing?
Yeah.
I think Dana's pretty clear about we want the younger fighters, and then we're sending them to Shake Turkey. Do you believe is there any traction here?
I don't think so. I mean, if you're Usyk, I think people are really underestimating this guy's place in history. He's going to go down as one of the greats, dude. He's got some great skins on his wall, but I don't know what Zuffa would have to offer him. I don't think it's a good place for a guy like that. I think they need to focus on that young talent. The older guard, they're used to things their way. I don't think they would want to fight under these banners.
They must have meant attaching them to the Shake Turkey portion.
Yeah,
of it, right. That had to be that. Yeah. Again, back to Contender Series. Do something like that. That's what Dana's saying. We're just taking younger fighters. They are going to come. They are trying to get their own belts, and so they're going through basically a campaign to amend the Muhammad Ali Act, where they, as promoter, can actually have their own ranking system and not have sanctioning bodies like WBC, WBO, WBA, IBF, Ring Magazine. I think it's another one where they hold belts. They want to do without that and just do them. It's a slight amendment. I'm starting to warm up to it, believe it or not. But I would prefer that the disclosure that you do get from the Muhammad Ali Act, where the promoter has to share with the fighters, this is what's going to be made. That's why they get those biggest pieces of the pie. And I'm always pro athletes getting big pieces of the pie. But I enjoyed it. Just give me 5 fights instead of 8 at that level, though, is all I got to say. They do have another one coming up on Sunday, and I would say give it a shot if you're coming to Vegas on an off week from the NFL, because the NFL now is down to the Super Bowl, and that's in 2 weeks. But if you are looking for something to do, it was pretty fun. I got to admit that. Guys, 325 is this weekend. Volk versus Lopez. Don't get me started. Lopez earned his title shot again. He went out and beat Jean Silva. But Volk did nothing. He just sat on the sidelines, and now he's got to fight a guy that he basically dominated the first time. Why are we doing this, Danny?
I mean, this was a tough one. I do think that Lopez was sort of the least deserving out of the contenders. I think if the division would have been in a different spot, I don't think it's crazy for Lopez to get a title shot. But because you have an Evloev, because you have a Lerone Murphy, it is a little surprising to see Lopez in this situation. But at the same time, again, we just talked about what we saw in the main event for UFC 324, right? It's also not surprising because Diego Lopez has done tons of favors for the UFC. The UFC likes him. He's exciting. And if you want to sort of kick off the Paramount era right and make sure that you're not having stinkers out there and controversial moments and stuff like that, which is why the UFC pulled also, by the way, the Michael Johnson and Alex Hernandez fight before the fight happened, unlike they did with Isaac Dugarian and Del Valle a few months ago. They want to get this right. And if you book a featherweight title fight for Volkanovski and you have Evloev, Lerone Murphy, and Diego Lopez as choices, as a business owner, I could, or as a business side of things, I could definitely see why the UFC would want to go with Lopez, because that is promised action. It is, it is promised action. You're going to have a fun fight in the main event. If you put Evloev in there, not so guaranteed. If you put Lerone Murphy, sure, his last fight against Aaron Pico was exciting and had a nice finish, but that was only his last fight. That's it. Prior to that, the dude didn't really have like that many exciting performances. So I don't fully agree with it, but I completely understand it.
I think they could have put Volk versus one of those two last October. He fought Lopez in April, so there was enough time to do that and then still have him ready for Sydney, which is where they are this weekend.
Right.
Goes and I will be hosting a watch along on Saturday. Don't forget the earlier start times: 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific for the featured prelims, and then we'll go straight into the pay-per-view. Well, actually, it's called a numbered event now because there's no longer pay-per-views, at least in America. I know there's a few countries that are still having to go through that: Canada, Australia, New Zealand, I think. But yeah, I like I say, my problem's not with Lopez; it's with the UFC not having kept.
Volk had a kid in September, and he welcomed a new child with his wife. So he wanted to take off that time to be there for her and all that. So that's why he didn't fight.
Did he have the kid?
Huh?
Did he have the kid?
His wife did, but he's got to be there for his wife, support her, this and that. Not training.
I know that's a line from Roy Keane. All right, goes. You like 325 the way it's played out? We also have chime in please on Volk and Lopez, and then transition to the co-main event, which is pretty stellar. Dan Hooker versus BSD Benoit Saint-Denis.
Probably not as strong as the card as we last saw. The Lopez fight, I'm not a big fan of Lopez getting that shot. I mean, we just saw it, and I can't blame Lopez. You got to take those shots, but I think this actually kind of hurts Volk, really, when you look at what he's done in his career. Look, a lot of rematches, twice with Lopez now, twice with Islam, 3 times with Holloway. He needs new skins on that wall for that legacy. I would have not liked to do this. I would have probably preferred Murphy, but it is what it is, as they say. And here we are. And who knows? Here's the crazy thing. Lopez could come and win the fight. And then, as Dana White says, everybody's got to shut up. But that doesn't mean it's still the right choice.
Right. Yeah. It's more on just Volk didn't fight anyone else. That's the thing. You got, I don't know. You got to feed the champ too. All right. And Hooker versus BSD. Does this mean anything goes? Maybe more BSD. I think he's more on the roll, right?
He's got to stay in the mix. It's good for him. Yeah. Hooker needs to stay relevant, but I mean, even the way he speaks, he kind of knows his place in the sport now.
Yeah, he seems like a gatekeeper to the top 10, maybe the top 5. But as a title challenger, he needs to just put a few in a row and win that big fight. Like had he beaten Arman Tsarukyan, we actually would be saying a whole different story. And there's another key pivotal fight, Danny, at lightweight as well. Fiziev versus Mauricio Hufi. Your thoughts on that one?
It's a fun fight. I don't know how much meaning it's got at 155. Certainly, the next title contender won't come out of this fight, but it is a fun fight. It'll be a fun, striking battle with 2 very dynamic fighters. So I'm excited for it. And certainly, if the winner does something spectacular, it could set them up for a big fight. But I like it. I got Hoofy in this one. I'll give you guys my prediction. I know you didn't ask for it, but I feel like he's got it.
Well, look, Dustin Poirier retired last year. Paddy just took a loss. So we're looking for a BSD or a Hoofy or someone to step up and kind of get in that top 5 and in that mix. So it'll be big in that sense for the lightweight division. And of course, the featherweight undisputed title is at stake here. Give me another highlight before we leave for UFC 325 taking place on Saturday. Don't get confused, folks. It's February 1st in Sydney, Australia, but it's the 31st here in America. Goes?
I like Salkild and Malarkey. I think those two are just going to come right at each other, and they're not going to stop till somebody goes to sleep.
Danny?
I might get some hate for this one, but, Tai Tuivasa, I know a lot of people say he shouldn't be in the UFC. Yes, he's on a terrible losing streak, but he's always fun to watch, win or lose. And they give him Tyson Teixeira, who's also a big puncher. So another good heavyweight scrap. I don't think this one will disappoint.
You think someone's going to be doing a shoey at the end of the fight or no?
Someone in the crowd. I don't know if Tuivasa will be doing a shoey.
Would you do it, Danny?
I don't think so. I think Tyson Teixeira beats him, to be honest.
Yeah. Would you do it, Danny?
If he doesn't do it, if he doesn't win, will you do a shoey on next week's SBC?
Is that what you guys want to bet?
Look, sounds like Goes brought it up.
No, hold on. No.
You brought it up, Goes. I'm just stirring the pot.
I'll take it.
I already did a shoey on the watch along.
If Tyson Teixeira wins, Goes does a shoey. If Tai Tuivasa wins, I do a shoey.
Bro, even
It's a
thinking
bet.
about it grosses me out.
It's
No
a bet.
way.
It's
a
a
bet.
bet.
Get out of here. Ain't no
With
bet.
each other's shoe, I'll mail you my shoe.
Even worse.
I'll
dude.
mail you,
I wouldn't even get one out of my own.
my indoor soccer cleat.
A bet. All right. And real quick before we end, and thank you all for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Hopefully you guys can share this. When it's done, it's immediately available on our YouTube page, which is free. And I hope you guys consider subscribing. And please always hit the like button on any of our videos. That definitely helps us a lot. But I did see a lot of chatter on Alexander Hernandez and Michael Johnson. So if you just give me 30 seconds here. So the UFC did pull the fight. On Friday, there was a lot of movement, right, towards making Michael Johnson more favorable. And I'm seeing in the chat, and it's probably the same stuff we saw, and it's all allegations. This is serious stuff. Something about an injury may have been leaked on the Hernandez side. And so these fighters actually, if I'm not mistaken, weighed in. The fight was pulled on fight day. It started becoming one of those where if there's smoke, there's fire. Dana White was asked about this. He says, I don't want to go through that again with with the commissions, with the FBI investigating. So he just pulled it. But really, we don't know any more than that, and to comment on it would be careless. So, but we did see it. I think, I commend the UFC. I think that's probably the safest route. If there was any sort of uncertainty, just pull the fight, investigate it, and then we all move on. These are two veterans here. I'm no shot at Isaac Dolgarian, but the other two have really been in the sport for quite a while. And when you start attaching rigging, fixing, those types of terms to fighters, to fights, to a promotion, it can cause a lot of harm. So that's all we'll say. And if we know more next week, we'll address it. Thanks to everyone.
George, we can go a little over. I do
right,
have a question because you are well versed in that world. That's something that I don't understand. What exactly needs to happen for suspicion to generate? Because I was watching the main event, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they'll throw banners on there sometimes on like crazy bets that people put out there. And there was a bettor that put $1.3 million, and I believe somebody pointed out on the comments here, on Paddy Pimblett, like right before the fight, or like the same day or something. That, I mean, who the hell has 1.3 million to throw around? If you put that on the line, I'm assuming you know something, right? So like, what exactly, if it's not a high amount of money, because obviously Gaethje and Pimblett didn't get pulled, if it's not high amount of money, what exactly needs to happen for these organizations to like that oversee this to get tipped off that there might be something weird?
High amount of money I don't think is big of a deal because we see it in all the other major sports, especially football. But I think it's the talk of info being leaked, that one side is compromised. I mean, just from the sense that might have an injury that they didn't reveal. You always see who's on the injury reports, like in football. We want to know, right? And if you have anything that's wrong with you, you report yourself as probable, questionable, likely to play Sunday's game or whatever. Here in MMA, we kind of don't have that. And I think when there's rumors of that being out there, the UFC gauges the temperature, sits down with the fighters, maybe does their own internal investigation. If it's just someone making a big bet, I think it's just someone making a big bet. But if that's attached to leaks being out there or people chattering, that someone just is not possibly fully vested in the fight, then yeah, it's a bad look. It's illegal. And so I think that's just the difference is the rumors, the leaks that may accompany the big bet. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, maybe it's a good topic for us to dive into on a future SBC. We thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for staying late. We got to get out of here. Go out and be a champion. We'll talk to you soon.